This is Spiritual Mamas Podcast. We're a couple of mamas out here just trying to raise kids, make it through a workday, and navigate mental health, all while going through a spiritual awakening. And we thought we'd take you with us. So grab your favorite cozy drink and let's chat. Hello,
Hello,
I'm Aericka,
and I'm Kim.
and this is Spiritual Madmas Podcast. Welcome back.
Yes, it is.
So how are we doing?
How are we doing? That's a good question. I am a little congested.
Yeah.
My nose wants to function sometimes, and other times it's a little clogged. So, but otherwise, I'm good.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot going on. My husband is finally back from Guam after 2 weeks.
Oh,
So,
I didn't know that he was there.
yeah, he was in Guam for 2 weeks, which is a 15-hour difference. So he's 15 hours ahead.
Oh, wow.
So it made conversation extremely difficult because
Yes.
we've been 12 hours apart before because he's gone to like Korea and Singapore, which is about 12 hours ahead. And that's easier. It's like, oh, it's 6 a.m. here, it's 6 p.m. there. Like, we could talk. Like, it's not a big deal. But the 15 hours confused the heck out of me.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember whether he was AM or PM. And when he, like, and then he was at work. It was very difficult. Basically didn't talk to him for almost 2 weeks. So that kind of sucked. But he's back. So that's
Good.
nice. He's very jet lagged and not necessarily the most personable right now, but I don't blame him.
Because he does a lot of traveling, when
Mhm.
he comes back, does he get a chance to have like a couple days to reset, or does he just jump into work?
Yeah, this time he did because he came back on a Saturday and then we had like that 3-day weekend. So, yes, but oftentimes he's back to work the next day.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So, but anyway, so that's where we're at. So,
Well, I'm glad he's back and reset, and you guys can communicate more easily now.
Yeah, we can actually have a conversation. It's amazing. All right. So today actually kind of goes off of last week's episode. Last week we talked about synchronicities and like how to talk to spirit guides, like how to get information from spirit guides, I guess, and source.
Yeah.
So
Ask and receive.
definitely go listen to that one because that's gonna tie into this. This is gonna make sense with this one. So today we're talking about like spirit guides, angels, kind of all of that sort of thing, and what those are and what the differences between spirit guides and angels are, because they are a little bit different. Do you know who your spirit guides are? Or have you connected to them?
Yes, I've connected. No, I don't know who they are. Which I don't know, that makes me feel weird saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say, well, I'm interested to hear what you have to say today.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say I once did a past life regression, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we talked about that before. Um, and in that experience, I was surrounded by what I assume is my spirit team, but I couldn't clearly see them. I knew they were there, and I knew who they were as far as like my spirit team,
Mm-hmm.
and that they were there for the reason that they were there for,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't clearly see them. And when I asked, I did not receive an answer, and I was told that maybe it just wasn't time for me to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I have connected to a number of my spirit guides. I don't know many of their names, and I actually haven't outright asked either. So, anyway, so let's get into it. So, spirit guides are souls who've experienced life on earth. They've walked the human path and having evolved spiritually now guide us through to our own journeys. So their wisdom is grounded in understanding of human challenges because they've lived through them.
Okay.
So they can be ancestors, teachers, animal spirits. They could be ancestors as in like way ancestors, or they could be like just recently passed type situation.
Mm-hmm.
And Some of them stay with us for life, like they've been with us forever and or past lives, and others appear kind of episodically as we need them and through our growth and healing. So they are a little different than angels because they have a more personal connection to us. Like they're very much connected to us, and they are
Mhm.
usually most likely just ours.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And now thinking about that experience that I had, the reason that I knew that my spirit team was my spirit team was because of the feeling that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very much that feeling of like, I know you and I love you and
Mm-hmm.
I'm connected to you.
Yeah, I mean, so spirit guides are very much been with you since birth. Most of them have been with you since birth. They know you, they've been watching you, they've been helping you, whether you know that they're there or not. They're very much connected to you. And the more you connect to them, the more connected you are. Like your ability to
Yeah.
kind of work together increases. So, how we can communicate with them is through dreams, knowing, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
knowing things, synchronicities,
Mm-hmm.
through card, like the oracle cards that we talked about last time, stuff like that, like divination and stuff like that. So, kind of the difference in spirit guides. So the ancestral guides, like I said, they can be family members or ancestors from many years ago. And then there's teacher guides, which are
Mm-hmm.
wise souls who offer lessons in specific areas of our lives. Now, in shamanism, we
Mm-hmm.
have teachers in human form, and they
Okay.
are in the upper realm, in the upper world, and they are usually like Buddha.
Okay.
I'm trying to think who else, like goddesses and gods,
Mm-hmm.
people who are like higher like higher entities, basically. Like they were
Mm-hmm.
human, but like they have ascended.
Yeah.
Another word for them is ascended masters. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Mm-mm.
It's a kind of similar situation, only a different kind of theology. And you go to the upper realm to kind of meet them. They don't know, they're usually yours specifically. I don't know, and I need to ask this, if my teacher in human form could be somebody else's teacher in human form. Because obviously, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, think about like God is all knowing. Like these deities are all knowing at this
Yeah.
point, probably.
Yeah.
But is that I'm gonna ask that because I don't know.
Yeah.
um, and then there's animal spirits,
Mm-hmm.
and these can be known as power animals, and that's again that's in shamanism, is very much power animals. But animal spirits bring us the strengths and traits of their animal nature.
Mm-hmm.
So you can think about whatever that means. Protector guides, which are spirits, beings who safeguard us from harm and negative energies. There's
Mm-hmm.
helper guides that temporarily guide us, who appear during specific challenges or life transitions. So those are the ones that kind of come and go. Ascended masters, which we talked about, which are the lightened beings who have reached a high level of spiritual mastery, like Buddha or Jesus, offering universal wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would think of kind of like the ascended masters as almost like the saints in Catholicism,
Okay.
or also teachers, I guess, would probably be in that category. I guess that's how I would kind of, if someone would connect with that, that's how I would connect with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's what spirit guides are. So then there's angels, which are different. So angels are divine celestial beings created by the universe or source energy to serve as messengers and protectors, and they exist beyond the human experience and have never lived on the earth. Their
Okay.
energy is pure, loving, and non-judgmental. So there's two different kinds of angel categories. Actually, there's a lot more than that, but like the kind of the two big ones are archangels, which are
Mm-hmm.
powerful and oversee larger aspects of life, like
Mm-hmm.
Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael. And then there's guardian angels, who are assigned to each of us at birth, guiding and protecting us throughout our lives. So the theory behind angels is that they're always around and always available, but they will not intervene until you ask them to. So we have to ask them to come to us to help us for them to do that. Otherwise, they kind of just are like, we'll let you do what you do, but you know, but the idea is that they're always there, so you can't always call upon them.
question. If you are calling upon them, I'm sorry that my congestion is coming up. If you are calling upon them for whatever situation, whatever it is that you're asking for, are they, I don't know how to word this, are they determining whether or not it's their place in that moment to help you with the thing that you're asking for?
So with all of these things, with all like spirit guides and animal guides and angels, I think they have the choice whether they're going to come or not if you call them. Okay. From what I understand is that angels will always come. Again, this is all metaphysical. Yeah. But like let's say you're calling in the ancestral spirits, like kind of in general ancestral spirits. Who comes and who doesn't, I think depends on who's available and if they want to help you at that time. Like in shamanism, we call in the spirits of the 4 directions. And again, who can come, who doesn't is kind of on them. But from what I understand, kind of like guardian angels and spirit guides, like the more like intimate ones would always come. That's kind of how I...
Okay. What I'm thinking is like if, purely hypothetical, but if I was in a position where I felt desperate about something, I'm going to turn to my team, I'm going to ask them to come, and they can show up. But if I'm asking them to intervene in a way that isn't appropriate, I'm just curious how that would play out.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it'd have to be aligned with their nature. If you're asking them to hurt somebody, or if you're asking them for something that isn't, like we talked about before, with your highest good or whatever we believe on that, I don't think that they would. Yeah. I think they might give you a sign that lets you know that that's the fact. I don't think they would just not do something, I feel like.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like, so like a couple years ago, I had a family member who was like in a really terrible accident, and the amount of prayer that the entire family engaged in to save this person was incredible. And I'm just curious in like situations like that, like if I was desperate to save a loved one and asked for that intervention, but for whatever reason it wasn't appropriate at the time, how would they show up for me?
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we talked about last episode is everything happens for a reason situation. And I think that would be one of those things. So maybe for whatever reason that person wasn't supposed to be saved. Because they had another purpose. That wasn't their purpose at this time, in this lifetime. I think that then they would just walk with you to help you through that process. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. To let you know that it's okay, let you know that, you know, this person's in a better place type situation. I think that's how they would show up. Again, I'm theorizing. But I think that that's how it would work.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously this is all like hypothetical, and I'm curious about it because when I am connecting with my team on a day-to-day basis, sometimes I feel them, sometimes I don't. But I imagine in those moments when it's like high risk and everything's up against the wall, you're going to feel them, but whether or not you're getting whatever outcome you're looking for might be different based on, you know, any number of circumstances.
Yeah, and I think that's why you always hear people that like rile against God when something bad happens in their life, because they're like, well, you weren't there for me. Yeah. And it's like, well, you know, maybe they were, but not in the way that you wanted. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. So I wanted to kind of go through the different type of archangels because it's very fascinating to me. So in some literature, archangels are only men. There are no women archangels. Now, whether that's the truth or not is the question. Whether that's like kind of patriarchal thing, I don't know. Or in general, if they're coming from source, do they have a gender?
Yeah.
And in the Bible, only three are, I think it's at least in the New Testament, only three are named. I've seen up to seven, and I've seen more than that. But I'm going to go
Okay.
with like the seven because I've seen that more often.
Yeah.
So each archangel kind of has their own specialty.
Mhm.
They can be used for anything,
Mhm.
but they each have their specialty. So like the Archangel Michael, he is supposedly like the head honcho. He's supposedly the biggest guy. He's the most well known usually, and he's
Yeah.
known as the great protector and the most powerful of the archangels. And you can use him for protection, either sacred or secular. And if you need safety, you could call upon him for that. If you need courage or guidance when you're feeling lost, apparently he loves to help healers perform their work. Um, and he's often depicted as holding a golden sword. So,
Yeah. I think of everything that I know, which is not much on angels, that's the one that comes across the most, and usually in that protector
mm-hmm,
form.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So then there's the Archangel Raphael, which helps physicians in their healing, or like helps in physical healing, excuse me. And if you're sick, you could call upon him. If you're a healthcare worker, if you're a healer, you could call upon Raphael, and he can help you out with that. When it comes,
That's what I needed this past
yeah.
week.
So when it comes to mental health or addiction, Raphael also helps to clear stress and fear so you can restore
Mm.
your inner peace.
Yeah.
So there's the Archangel Gabriel, and he's the messenger God. I think he's the one that told the shepherds about Jesus. Oh man, I should know this. And I think he's also the one that told Mary that she was going to have Jesus. Oh gosh, nobody come for me. I should know these things. Anyway, and so if you're a writer, you can use call upon him. If you're a speaker, you can call upon him. A lot of artists, writers, and teachers can call upon him to help with clarity and meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if you have to give a presentation. Next one is, no, these are ones that I hadn't heard of. Those first three I've heard of. And now we have got Archangel Ariel. Now, is Ariel a man or a woman? I don't know, but that's a
Mm-hmm.
name. But so she's the angel, or they're in this article, they're saying she's the angel of nature and
Okay.
protects the planet's resources and ecosystem and all animals.
Okay.
So you can call upon Ariel when you want to connect more deeply with nature. And there's Archangel Jophiel, whose name means beauty of God, and they support
Mm.
artists. So they're the Archangel of creativity, wisdom, and fresh ideas, and also can clear chaos and bring calm into your life. So we've got Archangel Azrael, and they assist dying people to help them cross over and adjust to the spiritual realm. And also there for grieving. Archangel Chamuel is to help bring peace to the world. You can call on him when you're suffering from anxiety, struggling in a relationship, or having a hard time focusing or forgiving someone, excuse me.
Mm.
So,
We've talked a lot about like forgiveness and
mhm.
clearing things out, letting things go, and
Yeah. So,
being connected. So it seems like maybe that would be
yeah.
someone you want on your side and all of that.
hmm So I was kind of curious about angels and whether this was like a Christianity thing. And do other people believe in angels if they're not Christian or religious? And supposedly angels have been depicted in all like the like Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, the big ones, not big ones, but those ones that are very similar. For in on like the Quran, in the Torah, and in the Bible, they have been depicted.
Mm-hmm.
And but just slightly different as to the way they look and what they do, but they're all basically the same thing. They're like protectors and helpers, and they're from God or source. And what I was finding, and this is kind of my thought too, is that basically the angels are from source, whatever
Mm-hmm.
source you believe in. And they are just ethereal metaphysical beings that
Mm-hmm.
come from source.
Yeah.
So that's what angels are.
Yeah, I think that's an important, thing to highlight because the idea or the thought of like angel, the word angel, can easily make people think, it makes me think immediately, like a very specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
I see a very specific thing. I have a very specific idea in mind of what angels are.
Mm-hmm.
But when looking at it from that perspective of like, oh, this is coming from source, you kind of have to take that association away a little bit and recognize that it doesn't have to mean some like, being in glowing white with a halo
Mm-hmm.
and wings and
Exactly.
all of these things.
It could be whatever you would think would be a very powerful, loving being from
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's created from source, which makes sense. So if you think about, I'm going to get again very kind of theological on this. If you think about everything comes from source,
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't it create different types of beings? You've got these
Yeah.
like metaphysical, these like very powerful, loving beings, and you've got like humans, and you've got spirits and animals, and all these different things, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you do the research into what like these belief systems were across the world at different points in time,
Mm-hmm.
there's a very similar story across different beliefs. And they may use different terminology or have different events that happened, but it's a similar sense of this source and divine being, and then having layers of spirits or supports or beings
Mm-hmm. Yep.
underneath that.
So, like I said, angels are divine beings who've never been human, and then the spirit guides are souls who have lived earthly lives. And the purpose is slightly different, whereas the angels offer protection and unconditional love and need to be called in and need to be asked to come and asked to intervene. Spirit guides provide wisdom based on personal human experience and can come to you without express asking.
Okay.
And then the connection with angels can feel more universal, while spirit guides often feel more personal and relatable.
Okay.
So, uh, how do we connect with angels and spirit guides? So, number one is meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big one with that one is that you are able to quiet your mind and set the intention, and you're kind of in between the worlds when you're in meditation, and in those kind of different planes in meditation. So it allows the communication to happen a little bit easier and for you to hear them a little bit better.
Yeah.
And basically, what you do in the meditation is you set the intention, and then you just visualize inviting the guides or angels into your space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can, so when you meet, let's say a being does come to you in the meditation, you can ask them, "Are you my spirit guide?" You can ask them what their name is.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily have to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
because it might not be needed. And you can ask them for healing or guidance or whatever question, whatever you need to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the number one way, and that's how I've met mine a couple of times. Prayer.
Yeah.
I mean, speak from your heart, ask for guidance.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling. So, journaling in the way of after a meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And some people do like just like what is it called, where you just write? Like you don't think about anything and you just write.
Like the automatic writing.
Yeah. And then see if they speak through you. Usually, again, you have to
Mm-hmm.
ask a question and then see what comes of that.
Yeah.
Asking for signs like the synchronicities, the symbols,
Mm-hmm.
all of that sort of stuff. And then dream work. That's actually a pretty big one that oftentimes that they come through. So again, you would set the intention that, please come to me and give me a sign, give me a message before you go to
Mm-hmm.
sleep. Another way is through Reiki. I've done that a number of times through Reiki.
So having all of these different ways to connect, to have a conversation, to ask for specific messages or ask for any message. Do you think that there's I don't know if better is the right word, but better ways of all of these options depending on what you're trying to ask or when you're trying to connect?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, meditation, because that's you're in that middle state. I think that's one of the best ways because that's when you're going to be the clearest and the most connected to source.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get the most messages. And then when you're trying to actually meet them, I think that's one of the best times. And then listening to messages kind of throughout the day, if you're just looking for confirmation on something, that would be like the synchronicities and asking, just be seen, shown a sign.
Yeah.
So I think like in meditation, let's say you do the meditation and you see something or hear something in that meditation, and then asking for confirmation through
Mm-hmm.
the signs.
Okay.
And then if you're just looking for general like love, guidance, I think prayer.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say that. I think that it makes sense that that would be the way you ask for those things. I also think that prayer is something that can be so easily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't need, and I mean, I know some people can, meditate anywhere and
Mm-hmm.
all that, but for those of us who
Mm-hmm.
struggle a little bit with that, I can't just like meditate any time of day, anywhere, around anyone
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. So prayer can be something that's so easily accessible to just, hey, let me just have this quick moment of conversation or send this message up to you or
Mm-hmm.
ask this question or
Yep.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
easy.
Yeah. And then like in Reiki, depending on how you receive Reiki and what happens to your Reiki, I tend to very much go into a very meditative, deep meditative state
Mm-hmm.
in Reiki. So I get pretty significant messages. So, and
Okay.
that tends to be, I don't necessarily ask. It's more just receiving and seeing
Yeah.
what spirit has to say is kind of what I.
Just going in open.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
mm-hmm. So, just to kind of go back to like the Christianity, Judaism, like the different religion thing for angels is that apparently Buddhism, Hinduism, and Japanese Shintoism also
Mm-hmm.
mention spiritual beings who are able to move through the air.
Okay. So there's that connection. It's like a very similar experience or message across beliefs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I found it interesting that some spirit guides are with you from birth. Some spirit guides are with you intermittently. I mean, it makes sense, but like just kind of the thought process on it. And some are with you throughout your lives.
Yeah.
Um, and I wonder why some connect to you deeper than others.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been told that a lot of my spirit guides have been with me for antiquity. So I wonder why that would be versus like getting new ones each life. You know what I mean?
I don't know if this is the answer, but I would imagine that some of it has to do with the growth, right? Like the spiritual growth that you're doing, the spiritual growth that you are doing here on this earth in this time at this point may be a continuation of something that you started in a different life
Mm,
or something that you are meant to go toward. And so depending on where you are in that process, it may be that, oh, I've been working on this for millennia
mm,
and I have to have some consistency, even if I don't necessarily know that that's what's happening.
right.
I have to have some of that connection. So
Mm-hmm.
those spirit guides have been with you forever because you've been working on this forever.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I like that. Um,
Yeah.
have you seen what your spirit guides look like, if any of them?
Um why am I having difficulty answering that?
Because
I
it's a very ethereal metaphysical question. I mean, it's like, have you
Yes.
seen them? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I am going to say yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
The not clearly. Not clearly.
Mm-hmm.
The yes part. So again, going back to that past life regression, that process for me was 6 hours long. So for 6 hours, I was in this like, you know, whatever state I was in.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of all of that is when I encountered my spirit team. And so I could see them. I couldn't see them clearly. I couldn't see faces. I could see bodies. I could see clothing, but I couldn't see faces. But I sensed their presence more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So on that front, yes. But no, I haven't clearly seen them. And I haven't really seen them after that or before that either. That was the moment of like meeting. But I do consistently sense that same presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I also consistently sense like my grandmother or specific
Mm-hmm.
presences that I'm like, yes, I know this feeling.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't clearly met or seen, which is, I don't know, I feel like that's a little bit weird because, especially in that experience,
Mm-hmm.
I was technically face to face with them, like, you know, shaking hands or hugging or holding or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't see them.
I think that makes sense because they are spirits. So
Yeah.
like it depends on how they're showing up, their energy shows up, and it depends on how clearly you can see, whether they want you to see them.
Yeah.
I've actually heard that like people who are mediums and can see different people have passed over, that
Mm-hmm.
the newer, quote on newer, even like in the 50 years, if they've died in the 50 years, last 50 years or whatever, the newer ones that have passed over often look glitchy because they haven't decided how they want you to see them, like what their body wants to be for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and so like they could be going from like kid to adult to old, like you know what I mean? So they kind of look a little glitchy.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
That's that is interesting.
And as they get farther from passing on, then they have
Yeah.
decided what they want to look like.
Okay.
Not that they can't
Well,
change it, but like
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I thought that was interesting. I have seen some of my spirit guides. One is a Native American,
Okay.
and for years, back and forth, this being, whatever, has come and gone. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I saw them when I had Reiki one time years ago. He was standing at the foot of my bed, just standing there.
Yeah.
He came to me on my vision quest. Um, he's been there a number of times.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I have him.
Do you find that he's there for a specific purpose? Like you can sense that,
Yeah, because he
I
never
guess.
really interacts. He just watches. He just stands there very stoically and watches. I get the idea he's a protector
Okay.
because and just he's walking with me type situation because he's just always just kind of standing there.
Yeah.
There's really no other interaction. I mean, he's looking at me like I know he's interacting with me, but there's no other like communication, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just was just gonna kind of give some examples of like
Yeah.
specific stories of when I've known that my spirit guides have come.
Yeah.
Uh, so one of like the most powerful, I'm gonna try to get through this without crying. One of the most powerful ones is I was on my way home from somewhere and I was going to a place where there was a very toxic person, a very toxic energy, and I knew that they would be there and I did not want to interact with them. I just could not. I did not have the energy to deal with that person, but they were going to be there and I was going to have to. And I just was like so distraught over it. And I was talking to my mom and sister on the phone and I was telling them this. I was like, I just don't have the strength. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go inside. Like, I just don't want to deal with this. And as I said that, I started to envision sending a wall of energy over the door to kind of seal off this energy so that I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have to come to it. So, like, I was kind of putting that out in my mind, like sending that energy to the door to kind of seal it off, to keep the energy in that space. And as I did that, my grandma, who had passed in like 2000, stood in front of the door. And then my dog Rocky, my old my old dog Rocky, came and stood next to her. And they just were like, "We got this. Don't worry. We'll keep this energy here. We'll protect
Yeah.
this." I have like, oh my
Well,
god, I'm
that
like
is.
crying and I have like goosebumps. Anyways, so and I was like, oh, okay, I can do this now. And I went
Mm-hmm.
in and that energy stayed there. I did not see that person. That energy did not come out. And And I walked past the room and was like, thanks, Grandma. And and
Yeah.
she wasn't there in the morning, but I got the sense that they were both there all night.
That's amazing because something like that is like it's great when you know that your like spirit guides are with you, but when you know that your loved ones are with you,
Mm-hmm.
it's that extra sense of comfort
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
protection.
Yeah. So I made it through that one. Okay. um, let's see. So another one, I was going through a very stressful time, which for a while there, when was I and I? But
Yeah.
in this particular time, I was just very going through really a lot of it. And I had a dream that I was kind of standing in this forest clearing, and I could see it from like the back of me, like
Mm-hmm.
point of view is from the back of me and above.
Mm-hmm.
And I was standing in this clearing, and I was kind of going forward to kind of like deal with this, or like go into battle almost. And this white owl came and sat on my shoulder, this like
Mm-hmm.
snow owl. And
Mm-hmm.
it sat there for a little bit, and then it became a cloak and like kind of like protected me as the cloak for a while, and then it changed back and was sitting on my shoulder. And ever since then, that snow owl comes to me very often. If I'm calling in spirits, that owl will
Yeah.
come. And I hear owls very often. I will see owls very often, like in places that are kind of weird to see an owl, like
Mm-hmm.
in both like fake and real
Mm-hmm.
life type scenarios, like art or real life one. And so I get the distinct impression that that is one of my spirit animals. It is not my power animal, but it is my spirit animal, which we'll talk about those differently some other time. But yeah,
Yeah.
so one of my
That's
spirit
pretty
guys.
cool.
Yeah. Uh Another one is I've been told that my angel is the Archangel Michael,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't think you could have them as yours, but I was told by an intuitive, and I've heard that a number of times from people.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of how that started is a couple of ways. I kept feeling the presence of an angel, and I kept seeing and hearing multiple times about the Archangel Michael, blah, 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 which was kind of weird because I hadn't really thought about that in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept feeling and almost hearing and seeing wings behind me. And I wasn't sure if those wings were mine
Yeah.
or like what the purpose of these wings were. And one night I was meditating. I think I told the story before, but one night I was meditating to help a specific person. And I touched the forehead of that person,
Mm-hmm.
and a massive amount of dark purple energy came pouring at me. And it wasn't good energy. Like it was like coming at me, and I couldn't stop it. And I was starting to get scared because it just
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't stop. This energy just would not stop. And I was doing everything I could think of, like to make it stop. And I finally was like out of desperation. I was like, Archangel Michael, come to me. I need help.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like this presence, and slowly like gold light started to push this energy back.
Mm.
And then I just had this feeling of calmness.
That is probably one of my favorite stories
Mm-hmm.
whenever you recount it. But I'm realizing like how interesting it is that like it in all of these situations it's high stress or something imminent is happening. Um, but you're also mentioning situations that are physical, that are spiritual, that are
Mm-hmm.
emotional, and across the board, you're having your spirit team or your angels come to you
Mm-hmm.
when you call for them and or when they just show up, that which is pretty cool that it's like not just when you're in a physical situation that you need
Mm-hmm.
support in.
Yeah. So those are just kind of like personal
Mm-hmm.
things that and it's almost always like how I know what they are, who they are, is like you said, like in the last episode with the synchronicities, just seeing these like the Archangel
Yeah.
Michael. Like I hadn't been to church in years. Like I hadn't thought about that in years. And it just,
Yeah.
started coming to me. And it was just kind of weird.
Yeah. It's pretty cool though. I think it's a something that could definitely use more on my end. I could use some more time with trying to ask for more connection, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not to ask for anything specific, but just to like connect more with
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the spirit team.
And in like shamanism, we have power animals and we have the teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and we have like other spirit guides that come to us, like spirit allies, I guess is what they're
Mm-hmm.
called. Supposedly, they're like friends. And the more you talk to them, the more the friendship grows and the more that they're going to be like working with you and the more like in tune you become to all of them. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of a quick and dirty on spirit guides,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of all I got.
Well, thank you for that. I think it's maybe something that we can expand a little bit more upon at some point
Mm-hmm.
because there's some things that maybe it's just specifics of like, you know, when or how or who or if there's specific rituals or thoughts or ceremonies
Mm-hmm.
that can bring forth
Yeah.
some of your spirit guides, especially if you're not sure who they are or if you have them or what they look like or when to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
um,
definitely.
that could be cool.
Maybe we could definitely do that. I mean, I guess like if you have a question or comment or you've like, I'd love to hear a story of if
Yeah.
you've connected with your spirit guides or you've had a story or situation where they came to you or maybe you're not sure if that's what happened. Like, I'd love to hear that. I'd love to work with it. Um,
Yeah.
but and to that, I would like to send an offer out there to all of our listeners, and it's I'm going to start doing this kind of once a month, and
Mm-hmm.
I would love to work with anybody that is questioning,
Mm-hmm.
do they want to connect to their spirit guides? Are you not sure? Do you want to like work with spirituality more? Are you having a spiritual awakening, not sure if that's what's happening? What blocks do you have to that spiritual awakening? I would love to work with you. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I'm offering is that we have like a 30-minute complimentary call. We get on a call, we see what your concerns are, your questions are, and how I can help you. And it's free, and it's I have like 5 openings for the month. So,
Amazing. I'm excited for you to start to offer that. I think being able to help people on this journey is, definitely one of the reasons that we started the podcast, but also there can be so much confusion and
mhm,
uncertainty of like, where do I go from here and what comes next and how do I know and,
mhm.
where do I start the research process or anything like that. So,
Yeah. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes on how to get a hold of me, and yeah, let's work together.
yes, reach out to Aericka, everybody, or 5 people.
Yeah. For this month. Next month there'll be another 5.
Yeah. Awesome.
Alrighty. Well, it's been great, and
Yes.
we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.